Welcome to Liberate Your Authentic Self. This is a special Ask the Author interview series for a new book called Time to Rise. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Susana Mei Siverhøj. She is a passionate transformational author, speaker, retreat designer, and facilitator. And Susana creates global tailored retreats, all sorts of workshops and events. And she teaches life intelligence, heart empowerment, flow schooling, holistic health, and compassionate leadership. And Susana is really committed to working with the conscious, heart-centered light workers of the world, those of us who want to make a difference in the world. She helps people overcome their limitations and overcome their fears so that they can live their lives to the fullest potential, being joyful, empowered, and free. Susana, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for contributing your story, Mission Possible, in Time to Rise.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for having me in the book. It's been such an amazing journey to collaborate and co-create this chapter.
It really is a co-creation. I'm so inspired by all of the authors who have joined us in this magnificent journey. But you and I have a lot in common, and I'd really love it if you don't mind. I'm going to share just a teeny bit of what you wrote in Time to Rise. So Susana's chapter, as I mentioned, is called Mission Possible. Sana, time has come. You are ready for your mission. I have always been a seeker. I've always known that I am on a big mission, that I am here to make a difference in the world. Although one of my greatest frustrations in life has been that I didn't know what that mission was. So I kept on searching around the world through education and relationships and within. I acted on my visions, intuitions, and inner knowing, even if I never understood where they would lead me. So I'd like to start there because you and I have this similar sense that we came to this earth with this big mission. But I know that you've also felt like I do, that sometimes, at least in my early life, I didn't feel like I belonged here. I felt such a connection, if you will, to the spirit world that I felt like I'd rather be there, but I knew I needed to be on the planet for some particular reason. So talk to me about that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that as long as I can remember, I always felt like an alien. It's, I remember like a 3-year-old looking at other kids and I'm thinking like, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? And so I was bullied through a lot of years, during school and I never felt I fitted anywhere. So it's just like I could, and the interesting part was that I could actually fit in everywhere. Like I was a chameleon. So it's like even my accents would change depending on who I speak to. And so I was like, is like looking at and trying to mimic people. It's like, oh, that's how we play this game. And then I would feel good there for a while. It's like, oh, finally I have my people. And it's just the last maybe, I don't know, 10 years, like after I had a very deep depression, that I started to become really more authentic and try to figure out who I am and not trying to please everybody else. So it's, it's been quite an interesting journey and it's keep on being even more interesting, but at least I feel comfortable in my own skin now.
Mm-hmm. And so your life journey has taken you on lots of exploration, which is, again, something that I think many of us who feel that sense of, it's a little bit of a depression, it's a little sense of, why is this so difficult? Why is it that so many other people, like you said, you look at these kids and they're just doing stuff and you're like, but why?
Yeah.
So what sort of exploration, I know that you've explored a lot of different cultures and belief systems. Can you tell me a little bit about the ones that really stick out as the ones that have really helped you accept this human experience that you're going through as a spiritual person?
I would say that, I've tried all these different jobs and educations. Like I've been I started off at hairdresser school, and then it's like, why am I here again? And that was mainly because of my background. My grandma and my aunt are hairdressers, so it was like easy to fall into that. Then I moved to the States, and then became an actress, working in that field, because I've always had this image that it's like I would see myself on a big stage. So I'm like, oh, actress, that's like on stage. And then came to a point where I realized I can't play that game, because it's like you stand there and you're introduced, and I know you know this too, Andrea. It's like you have people looking at you up and down. It's like, oh, you need to lose a few pounds, or you need to do this to fit into this cast or that role. And I'm like, I can't do that. That's not me. So to even being in that business, even if I love acting, I couldn't not be me.
Yeah.
And you can't be in that business. You have to play the roles. And so that was a huge shift. And then when we were managers at the hotel in Costa Rica, I think that has been one of the major, like, every step has its shift, of course.
Yeah.
But that is where I felt for the first time that I didn't want to leave this planet. And it actually came that I was really, really desperate, wanted to leave, because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I was in constant pain. And I'm like, oh, when we move to Costa Rica, then everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And then it was like, damn, you can't escape yourself.
Yeah.
Shit, I brought myself into this. So that's actually where I also really landed within me. And the magical part is that my pain started to vanish as well. So I'm like I'm almost symptom free. If I don't listen to my body, then I can have symptoms. But in general, it's like I thrive, and having doctors telling me it's impossible, like that's, and that comes from working with a shaman in when I lived in Costa Rica. So yeah, that was just like the biggest miracle and shift, I think.
So was the shaman working on you and in your healing? Were you also studying to practice some of the shamanic rituals, or it was just for your healing?
No,
okay.
He was just, it's like, well, we collaborated, I guess, we had a lot of soul retreats. We like collecting soul pieces from previous life, activating a lot of previous life things and DNA, and we were activating like different chakras and dimensions. Like I was living in a multidimensional reality for quite some time, and sometimes it really freaked me out, to be honest, because it felt so natural. And then when you come back to the 3D, you start to think like, ooh, am I crazier? Or, is this really real? And all these surreal experiences we had both together and things that just showed up. He would say something. He got a keyword for me. And we were like, what does that mean? Like just a sound. It wasn't even a word. Could be like, and then I started to Google it. And then all of this information started to unfold. And we're like, whoa, that's spooky, So it was a totally amazing experience, but also quite scary, to be truthful.
Right, it is. Now, wait, did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
In Sweden, southern Sweden.
Okay.
In a tiny little village.
In a tiny little village. And so I would imagine in this tiny little village in Sweden, were there a lot of people who talked about, shamanic rituals or retrieving pieces of your soul or activating your DNA or tapping into past lives? So I could see how experiencing that and then literally experiencing it like you're feeling like you really are traveling to another dimension, that could be unsettling.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, my aunt, who's also the hairdresser, she was having mediums coming over, and so she's so I think I was in fifth or sixth grade the first time I went to see a psychic.
Oh.
So from that perspective, I've been on this path for most of my life, but this was at a totally different level, because even as a teenager, I read the books about, like previous life stuff. But this was different because I embodied it. And it just took all of that I kind of knew and read about to a totally different experience. So that was, I think but even I also think that because it felt so natural, and I felt that was the difficult when I was a kid, because it's like that was the natural reality for me, and no one else knew about it, or very few in my surroundings. I'm lucky to have my mom that experience, but even it's like sometimes difficult for her as well, to understand my reality, because it's so different.
And so when you were in Costa Rica, you mentioned that you got some, healing on multiple levels, and that decreased your symptoms of fibromyalgia. So tell me, what was that link? What helped there? And then now that I see you've got big visions, which we'll talk about. You've got big goals, and you are really coming into this powerful stance with living out your life mission. So I want to know, like, how did the fibromyalgia thing start to resolve? How do you stay so energetic?
Well, actually, it is with all this. First of all, I think the main thing was when I started to listen to my own body. That's what it shifted a lot of the symptoms. And for instance, that, like, it's easy for a lot of spiritual people. They'd say, well, you are the one creating your disease, and, all of that. And so basically it was my fault. And when I started to say, heck no, just like if I could choose in this, I wouldn't choose that. So also to give myself a bit of slack and say, hey, I'm doing the best I can with the things I have. I know I eat healthy. I do exercise. It's like I did all the things that you should do. And so what is this? And the more whole I became, that was the main shift. That it's like when I started to be kind to myself and not so hard on myself, and to also say, it's like, oh, it's okay, you can feel sorry for yourself today, and, withdraw and be a bit like, oh, I'm so sad, like allow that, to allow myself to feel crappy. And because then it's like when I did that, that had a major, it's like, okay, and then kind of bounce back, but to not stay in that victimhood, and also when I started was actually I listened a lot to Matt Kahn. I'm totally Matt Conned. So he talks about that pain, when you see it as it's healing happening, instead of seeing it as, something is wrong.
Yeah.
So every time I start to have pain, I reprogram my brain to feel, oh, I'm really healing today. Oh, this feels really crappy, but that was also one of the things that was just a major shift that when I reprogram my own beliefs, it's not about positive thinking, but it's really about being authentic. Mm-hmm. And that's all what I know you are all about as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I find that it's incredible when someone is really able to change their perspective about their physical experience and about the pain, because I also believe that our feelings, including painful feelings, can really be messengers. They can communicate to us. So that change that you made to say, okay, this is healing taking place. And that gives you sort of the permission to stop resisting and getting into that victimhood that you talk about. I so love that. Well, I'd love to explore another something that could be a little bit of a painful topic, and that is the education of our children. So when we get back from the break, my situation is very much like yours and very much like all of the conscious parents that I know. We really want the best for our children. And when we see that they are in pain or they are suffering, especially at school or with their peers, that's when, no matter how spiritual we are, we jump into that mama bear protective role. So I'd really like to explore some of the experiences you've had that have led you to where your new big flow schooling mission, this world schooling mission, when we get back. Tune in daily to get fired up with insight and inspiration for purposeful living, conscious relationships, and soulful success. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check out the live version of this show, where I answer your questions in real time. Visit facebook.com/Dr. Andrea Pennington. Welcome back to Liberate Your Authentic Self. This is the special Time to Rise author interview series. And with me today is Susana Mei Siverhøj. She's written a chapter in Time to Rise called Mission Possible, which is really, really a perfect title, because there are times in our lives where we feel like life is just impossible. From our own physical and emotional struggles that we're dealing with that we feel like we just can't get past, then to trying to make this perfect environment for our little ones, our beloved children. Susana, let's jump right into this, because this is a big part of your life's mission, which we started this interview by talking about. You heard a message that said, you're ready. So let's start first off with your experience with your children in school.
So yeah, where to start? It's, well, when we were very conscious, which school system we wanted our kids in from the beginning. So we were looking into what's out there, and the Waldorf, the Rudolf Steiner, concept is really rest because they look at very holistic, and so our kids started with that private school right from the daycare, and it worked so well. Coming into school, my son started to have a lot of issues. Like he would get very explosive, and since I'm very, very sensitive myself, I could also sense that, and someone told me this, that a lot of the new children on the planet, like they can't shut down. So basically they just are here to transform the energy. So they soak everything in and they transmute it. But if they don't know what to do with all this energy, and if it's like they get overwhelmed, because a lot of kids today are on drugs and because they have all these diagnoses and everything. So he was the one that took in everybody's suppressed emotions, suppressed everything, because it's not allowed to be angry or, in a lot of, especially in a lot of the spiritual or more that alternative schooling is like, no, we don't show anger, we are all, they're just nice to each other. And, it's a good concept in a way, but everybody feels anger. And if we're not allowed to, or we don't have a tool to express it in a constructive way, it often becomes very explosive. So with over 30 kids in one class, he got very explosive and violent. And I didn't understand what was going on with my kid, because, it's like he is the most loving, heart-centered kid ever. I remember when he was saying to I think maybe he was 3 years old or something. And he said to his big sister, because he was scared of the dark, to sleep alone. And he said, but Elise, you can sleep in my room because my heart is so bright. So I will light up for your world, so you don't have to be scared. So he's this very, very sensitive, very cute, amazing kid. And then he became this violent and intuitively, I thought, it's just like, it's too many kids. It's too much energy for him. But even if we try to express that to the school, they immediately jump to the conclusion that it must be that because that we beat him or something like that. So it was quite a shock to feel like, okay, so you think we beat our children? Yeah, because our daughter had some issues as well, or whatever, there was a lot of accusations that really went into that part of you that really question yourself and said, am I really a bad parent? Am I really screwing this up? Because I like to feel that I'm conscious, but we also have our blind spots. So I didn't want to, and to be quite helpless. And it's like, what do I do? And around the same time, we were offered that position going to work in Costa Rica, running this hotel. So we took them out, and he also was on some homeopathic medicine and things. So he really became himself again. And then moving forward a lot, you let me know if I'm rambling too much, but he started this other school, and he was much more grounded because there were only 10 kids in class.
Was that in Costa Rica?
No, that was when we were back in Denmark after a few years.
Okay.
And he was thriving. It's like, yeah, but it took some time for him to heal the wound that he wasn't wanted, and that basically they wanted to kick him out of school. So, he was also, of course, challenging but the teachers really, we told them the whole story, so they knew how to deal with it. And then they merged 2 classes, and the same pattern started again. So I had my confirmation that, okay, it's just too much energy for him. And then from that point, I can see it happens all over the world, because it's like I've been doing my research and really it's like, hey, what's going on? And I can see there's a new generation of kids on the planet. And they talk about all this, from it came a wave of a lot of indigos from 87 and forward. And now you have the crystal or rainbow kids or star kids, whatever you call them, or the different versions, it doesn't really matter. But the whole school system makes the kids wrong and say that we need to put them on meds because there's something wrong. We give them diagnosis, ADHD, ADD, autism, whatever. But we don't look at maybe the kids just can't take all that energy, and they need to move. They need to be more active. They can't just sit and be told their brains they're actually science saying that they have more activated brains than we do, more DNA activations. So it's,
So what did you do? I mean, you mentioned that, you started to question yourself as a parent, but you were getting these confirmations. So what did you do to help him get to a healthier place?
First of all, yeah, we balanced his body, because it's also, like you need to see where are we unbalanced. And so there was something with his heart and lung that was not aligned. So that also made the whole thing worse. So we took some homeopathic medicine for a while. But also what has been important for me is to make him to understand there's nothing wrong with him. That, this is what happens when there's so much energy. So what we do now is to really try to help him to put the boundaries up in his energy field, or help him to get tools. What do you do when you feel like that? So then his system can relax.
And so what are those things? So, I also have a very highly sensory perceptive kid. And just like you're talking about, we do talk about some sort of out there concepts of putting an energy field around us, and also becoming conscious that because we are sensitive to other people's energy and their emotions and their feelings, that we also have to just be aware that if we're feeling bad and we know it's not our stuff, we need to find a way to just clear it, to blow it out. And we can still be around some people if, sometimes you have to, you're at an event or you're with family. But it's about putting up this protective shield that says that energy is going to not come in and affect me. It might bounce off. It might, turn into sparkly light or something. But what are the techniques that you have used with your son to help him feel like he's protected?
The thing is that as what I have learned is that they can't really do that protection in the same way that we can. So because they are so open, and so they don't have that filter. So for them, it's more like what you were mentioning, to clear, like even having a glass of water to clear the system and let everybody else's energy go. Another thing that really worked well with my son was that he would do another Matt Kahn, I love yous. So it's like when he started, it's just like he would, what we did at school was that when he started to feel this energy rising, he just looked at his teacher and said, I need to go out. And he went out to sit for a few minutes, and then he could sit and just like, I love you. I love you. I love you. And that calmed his whole system. And also, if he felt attacked from someone else, he would actually, again, just like, okay, I acknowledge your power, really to try to support the one attacking him, and just like stand in his light. And that way, not go into that. So from that perspective, the more love he can send out, it doesn't always help, he can't, of course he's 11, but I noticed that the best way to protect himself is that he actually leaves when he starts to feel that. So help him acknowledge what happens, where are your triggers, like what happens in your body, how do you feel? And also, if I or someone in the family has something, it's very important for him, or for everyone, of course, because we all sensitives in our family, but to express it. So I would say immediately as I acknowledge it, I would say, hey, I'm feeling quite frustrated and sad today. So just so you know, has nothing to do with you. This is mine, and then he would not take it on. So as long as we can help him express how we feel, he doesn't have to do it for us, because he's like that mirror.
That is a really, really great description of what it means and what it feels like to be an empath, to be highly sensitive. We are basically serving as a mirror. So those are wonderful, wonderful ways to help our children and even ourselves as adults. So what is your vision now for schooling? I mean, we've only talked about one of your children, and I know you've had experiences with each of them, but what is your vision for the future? I know that this is something that you are really ready to put all of your energy and focus on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, it started actually this summer that I also wrote in Mission Possible, that I had this avatar Bhagavan from Oneness University, and I've never had an experience with him before. So it was just like, whoa, I just felt he was coming. And then, that's what he said. It's like, you're ready, you're done. You have done all the training, you've been through. Now you're ready for your mission. And that you don't have to know how it's going to unfold. Just follow our guidance. And I think was a very good move from his side, because it's like, otherwise I wouldn't do it, because it's like, this is way too big. But the last 6 months, it's just like bits and pieces have come and really come into that. What is, as I see it, needed on the planet, if also we're going to make a huge shift and have peace on earth, there has to be a new school system. So I have, I'm going to create this online training for teachers and mentors and parents who homeschool, whatever, everyone who feels they want to have this framework of life intelligence that I've created, and then create as a main part an online school. So basically, just like you go to university, you can pick and tailor and, have your type of courses and education. So all of a sudden, kids can love to learn. So you can have small classes on Zoom or whatever, and share their experiences from kids from all over the world who has the same interests, who have the same passions. And because they have chosen that particular course, that means they have something in common. The bigger picture of that is that how could you go to war with someone of your friends? So it's all about connecting everyone and everything, and not only have this mind focus, but a very holistic education where it's all about the mindfulness. How is everything connected? Everything is so separated today. Even like if you have a topic as English or math, so it's like, it doesn't make sense for a lot of kids. It's like, what am I going to use this for? And how is that relevant? So try to implement more of these topics into one course, so it's not separated. So the coherence and meaningfulness comes in every class. And kids who are not very, they need more time and they can't get overwhelmed. They're very sensitive. They might have a minimum amount of courses, while the kids who just like soak information and learning, they can take much more classes. So it's like tailored, and they can pick and choose. And of course, there will be some mandatory classes, but in the essence that it doesn't have to be a fixed system, but they can really tap into and try out a lot of different things that they normally wouldn't. Kids today, they need to learn to learn. It's like they don't need teachers to tell them. It's like, this was where we come from. Yeah. Because new science today says, no, we don't.
Exactly.
So they need to also have a critical thinking. They need to understand that's like, well, that's one perspective. There's another perspective. And what is my truth? To find what is their own truth in everything.
I love that. I love that concept because it's so much more empowering. We may still learn about world history and the events and the systems of the world, but it's about empowering our children to really use their own critical thinking, find their own flow. I love it. Well, Susana, when we get back, I want to talk to you about another sort of system or framework that you're using to teach about compassionate leadership, which I believe goes hand in hand with empowering our children. We've also got to empower our leaders and ourselves to become leaders. So when we get back, let's pick it up there. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check me out on Instagram at Dr. Andrea Pennington. And now, back to the show. So I'm back with Susana Mei Siverhøj, who facilitates these global workshops and retreats that are really transformative. And Susana, one of the things that you do is this compassionate leadership workshops. I'd love it if you could tell us a bit about how that is structured, because I know there's these three fundamental things that you work with that can be really transformative. So let's pick it up there.
Yes. Well, basically, because I'm all about global, we have these online workshops where we go together, and I would say I'm more the facilitator, because we always take the medicine in each other's sharings, right? So also to recognize the essence and be able to communicate our deepest truth and come into our own empowerment in that. So when we have our workshops, we share from our hearts in a very safe environment, because the more we get to know ourselves, the more we also have compassion for others, right? So, and we can't, it's so easy to the whole leadership, like we live in a hierarchy, like there's always levels. And the compassionate leadership is more about when you become leader of your life, then you co-create with others, and you are not the one leading or above anyone or below or whatever position you're in, but we are all equal, and we take the essence and the passions from everybody, so everybody grow equally and everybody contribute. Because one of the things we know about in leadership, when people are radically responsible for their part, everybody thrives. So that is just like one of the main thing in that. So, so we work with this CEO of life, and the S, and SEO is maybe more, you're the CEO of your life, but this is an SEO. It stands for that I see you. And basically it's to really see the essence of each other and not looking into, you walk the other people's shoes instead of judging them. It's like, I don't know your story. I can't judge you for whatever because I don't know. But what I do know is that what I truly believe is that we are all good in our essence. And some would argue that no, like you have all these terrorists they do it from their truth. They believe they're doing the right thing. No one does anything to, I would say, harm others, but yes, you can, but you do it because it's your truth. So when we start to look at people that really see people from that perspective, it's like, I allow you to be who you are, and I love you for that. That is quite transformative for everyone, and to be seen, no matter what we do, who you are is pure goodness.
Yeah, that sense of non-judgment, like really just seeing you. I agree. That sense of non-judgment, that's where we can feel that sincere compassion, even when someone's doing something that we feel is quote unquote wrong or bad or evil. So that's the S. S stands for I see you. It's seeing them in their essence. And then the E. What does E stand for?
That I embrace you. So embracing, we all have these fears and limitations. And even like that is what holds us back. So when we start to embrace our fears, like if there is a fear, it's like I'm really scared that I will fail or even succeed, or that, that is what normally holds us back. So when we embrace that, I often see it as, if I have something come up that I judge as not spiritual or not good or whatever, if I take that part of me, like we are 7 billion shades ourselves, or, like when we embrace it all, I take that fear into my motherly arms as the bigger self, that little child within me. And I just embrace it and say, I love you. It's like, hey, I get you. I understand. Then it just fades, and we can move through that. But it's the resistance that always holds us back. So by embracing our fears and limitations and acknowledge it, say, hey, I am scared of this. Or, yes, I have this limitation and I own it. So really own our limitations, and then we turn them into strengths, because they are only limitations when we judge them and resist them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that reminder that it's the resistance that ends up holding us back, because it takes so much energy to fight our natural impulses. So if we do naturally feel fear or we feel anger, trying to bottle it up takes up so much energy, and it takes away our focus from living our truth. So I love that if we can just allow it to come up and embrace it, then we can find solutions to whatever that feeling was trying to communicate to us. So that's good. So the E of SEO stands for I embrace you. And the O, what does O stand for?
O is opposite is true. Because what happens and we like in the spiritual little woo-woo world, we often talk about everything is possible. We live in an infinite reality where everything is possible. But in the 3D world, we actually are so programmed to believe, no, we can't. And it's just to come with a very extreme example. I was sitting one day and I had that sense of, I can't fly. And then I was like, is that true? Because that means I don't live in an infinite reality. So I flipped it over and say, well, the opposite is often true. If I have a belief that says I can't, that means the opposite must be true. So, and sitting there, I was like, but wait a minute. I fly all the time in my dreams. And that's just a different dimension. But yes, I maybe can't fly in this lifetime at this point. But I also been in realities where I could. So it's more like I need to raise my vibration to the reality where I can fly. So all of a sudden I'm like, hell yeah, I can fly, And so when we have those, no matter what it is, but those fears, limitations, or where we feel like, no, I can't, flip it around, try it out, just sit with it and feel, it's like, is that true? Well, it can't be, because if the word itself says impossible, it means I'm possible. So, like I think there's Audrey Hepburn or something who said that. But so when we just question our own beliefs, it is like hey, if it makes me feel expanded, then it must be true. Like, even when I say I feel much better believing that at some point I will be able to fly, even if then to believe I can't, that contracts me. So to start living our life from what feels expanding, it might not be true right here and right now, but it will be because I can feel it. That feels much better to believe. So we are programmed. So why don't you program yourself with some more exciting programs that's just like when you're in, you can do anything. You're a superwoman or man, you know?
I love that, because I do feel like we limit ourselves so much based on either what we see in our surroundings or society. And then when we do limit ourselves, we shut down. It shuts down our creativity. So I love this idea of just saying, what if the opposite is true? It just opens us up to maybe some new insight coming in, or just a shift in our perspective. Yeah. Well, Susana, this has been a very enlightening conversation, and I'm so excited that we're connected and excited about some of the things that we may end up collaborating on with this big, big mission that you have for transforming the way we educate our children. So if anyone else out there would like to connect with Susana and her very big mission, you can join the community by visiting theosheart.com. Anything else that you believe people need to connect with you on the website or social media?
Well, I'm on Facebook and I'm everywhere, but for Theo's heart, just to describe, it actually turns out it means God's heart in a non-religious way. And it turns out that my family, like the names of my children, turned out, without us knowing, Theo, Hugo, Elise, and then my husband's name is Oliver and I'm Susana. So it's Theo's.
Oh, that's so
that's
cool.
Just like where the name Theo's heart come from.
Oh, that's really cool. So cool. Susana, we could talk all day, and I'm sure we actually will in the coming weeks. Yes. But I thank you again so much for contributing your story, Mission Possible, in Time to Rise. So folks, check her out at theosheart.com and stay connected. And remember, you truly are a gift to the world. Just as you heard Susana talk about, don't believe in any of the limitations, especially if someone has tried to throw a diagnosis on you or a label on you. Remember that at your core, you are an infinite being. And in this little game of life, there might be more possible options for you than you've ever given the opportunity to see. So open your heart, open your mind, and remember that you truly are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Bye.
Thank you.
How do you pick yourself up when life knocks you down? Perseverance, grit, determination, resilience. These words describe natural human qualities which help us bounce back after any type of setback: illness, loss, betrayal, bankruptcy, divorce, abuse, and trauma. No one is immune to experiencing the tragedies of life at some point. Learning how to use your potential to rise again is what will keep you going. I'm Dr. Andrea Pennington, creator and publisher of Time to Rise. In Time to Rise, 29 inspiring changemakers share their personal stories of transformation to prove that you can reclaim your life, find your purpose, and re-emerge as the powerful creator that you are. It can be tempting to think that the people who succeed in life or who recover after major devastating loss are special or somehow endowed with magical powers. The reality is, within you are the very same powers. You have the potential to live a life of meaning and purpose in alignment with your values. You have the right and the power to reclaim wellness, live with vitality, and enjoy real happiness. Get your copy of Time to Rise and enjoy free gifts with your purchase. May this book help you reconnect to who you really are. May you find peace and hope. May you claim this moment as your time to rise. Visit timetorise.me and buy the book anywhere books are sold.